Oh no! Wait, there's no sploosh. We have a problem. We have a problem. There we go. Much better. Much better. There we go. Sorry, blooper sploosh. I accidentally had turned my sploosh off because I was just filming a video for the Patreon, and I forgot to put my sploosh back on, guys. Oh no! Should I be painting a dumpster instead, Nomadzik? We can put a fire elemental in the dumpster. Good morning. Good morning, Dragon. I saw you join my Patreon. I'm going to send you a welcome email. I just, this weekend got away from me. I'm sorry you did not get your welcome email right away when you signed up. I try to be, on it within the first day. But I was just, yeah, let's just not talk about the weekend. I put a sploosh up. You guys got an after the fact sploosh. Do you want to re-sploosh? We can re-sploosh. Hey everybody. So it's a grand and rainy morning here in Northern California. And how is everyone today? Did you have a not too terrible New Year? Hello, GVD. Yay, yes, I'm happy you joined too. I hope you enjoy it. Let me get onto camera. Oh, it's Dancing Girl Day. All right, let's get my brain in this again. I was working on a bust all weekend, or at least on the evenings on the weekend, and it got me off of Tiny Mini mode. Finally. It's been a while since I worked on a bust for me. You guys want to see my bust for me? Here, hold on. I will come over and show you my bust for me. So here is my bust for me. Yeah, she does need a little bit more contrast. David was like, she needs more contrast. I'm like, oh yeah, maybe. Let's see here. Let's get close. There we go. So there we go. But that's where she is right now. I need to tone down a blue in her eyes a little bit. I need to do some work, but you know, it is what it is. She's in a transition period. Yeah, good vacation, but back to work, right? All right, well, let's get on Nemezra here. And, oh no, did I, oh no, there's my glasses. I am so discombobulated this morning. What is it, guys? Yeah, I need to work on the eyes on that bust. I'm trying to do very realistic. I posted a picture of her up on the Discord on my Patreon for those of you who are on the Patreon. If you have not yet joined the Discord, send me a message. I can send you a link to join. You should join, though, because we have an awesome community, and it's super friendly and supportive, just like the Reaper community, because, well, it comes from the Reaper community. So it's like this little microcosm of the Reaper community. You made it through the new year. All right. Yeah. You know, it's, I still cry when I think about Kiri a lot, but it's getting better. It's getting better. Alrighty, Minnie. Yeah, that's right. I kind of was liking how she was turning out. Her face was getting better. I still think I was split on whether to go dark or blonde with the hair, as I recall. And we need to get this blue cloth down on her, right? So that we can figure out some other things about other colors and stuff. So, I need to figure out right now, is my skin highlighted to the level I want it? You've got to keep in mind when you're doing transparent cloth that you really want to accentuate your highlights, because the minute you put this glaze of color over the top, it's going to knock them right down. So right away I'm looking at her rib cage where she's got this drapey thing that's going to be, be see-through blue. And I like the level of highlighting that I see on the legs because I think that's going to transmit very well. But I don't so much like this. I feel like I need more highlights here on the front of her torso. Yuck. Oof. 6 since the 1st is not a good thing to be, Val. Yeah, antibiotics for sure. Although if you're on those for too long, it can make you feel even worse, right? That's the problem with antibiotics. They always hit me pretty hard. All right, so let's do this. Let's assess our back. I think our back is okay because I've got definite lighter portion here and then going down to the dark, and we'll blend that blue up. We're using tropical blue, and her lower part there is all in shadow. Oh, yeah. Coffee and hi. Hi, Crowley. Oh, David and I started doing yoga, guys, for the new year. This is going to be interesting. It was already full of comedy because there were moments when the instructor and we picked a lightweight one that works you up to doing hard stuff. And I've never done yoga before. David, I think you grew up doing it with your mom, didn't you?
I didn't grow up.
No.
No, I think they only started it when I was like 20 or something.
Right. But had you gone, I mean, you'd done some of it before, right?
I usually, like, I've gone while I've been visiting my parents.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. I need to mix up my skin base. But yeah, so we started that, and there were already moments where she was just like, and then we're going to do this. And I'm like, oh, no, we're not. It was much more fun than I anticipated it being, and I did better at it than I anticipated. I think I need to like maybe rewatch the video and just watch what she does, because some of the transition areas, because you're trying to do the pose, right? And in the meantime, up on the screen, she's working herself into the next pose, and so you miss, whether she moves her hands or her legs or how she moves them or where her butt is.
Yeah, I was wondering if we should try to have like a second screen that's on the floor between us.
Oh, yeah, that would be good. We can do the iPad. That's a smart idea. That's why I love him, guys. Super smart David. He thinks of these logical things that we should have thought of before, but didn't. But yeah, that would be good, because then I could do that, because I don't know the poses, and I don't know the transitions either, so.
Yeah, it's definitely easier for me because I have some familiarity with some of the poses and movements, and also I know some of the names.
Yeah, exactly. I know some of them too, like the downward dog, because it's about dogs.
Yeah, downward dog is one of those famous.
And baby cobra. I also know the cobra because they call it something different in my Pilates book, but you do the same kind of stretch to warm up. Twisted Oma, I had the same thought, but I've realized that they really ease you into it. Like if you start with a new program, like they really do start you with relatively easy stuff, and they don't expect you to do everything. And if it's a good instructor, they'll give you modifications. Like instead of doing a full plank, they'll say keep your knees on the ground, etc. and things like that. Oh, I'm totally anti-flexible. Like, yeah, ever since I've been a kid, guys, like I was not flexible, but I've decided that I know that you can increase flexibility though, Nomedzi, because I experienced it when I was taking Tai Chi. Like, I would never have thought that I could do some of the bending stretches that our Tai Chi instructor wanted me to do. But I actually, over time, I was able to, because you just start working into it, and eventually flexibility is something you can gain. You can't gain it necessarily to the point of that girl in high school who you hated, who could just, like, drop herself all flat on the floor with her legs out to the sides. No. Sorry, no splits in my future. But, but you can train it. So... yeah, well, anything helps, right, Nemezi? Yeah, right, they expect you to adapt. I was pretty happy that I could do what I did do. I was able to do the, like, bend over from the waist thing and get my hands down almost on the ground, so that was nice. Almost flat, which is something I wouldn't have been able to do in the old days. But yeah, so I am one of those people who has been flexibility challenged their whole life, but I'm also one of those people who desperately needs more core strength because of my back. And I think all of us mini painters could definitely benefit from doing some stretches, whether it's Pilates or yoga or whatever you do to build core strength and make sure your core is engaged more. Like, totally will help you battle the back woes and the shoulder woes that we tend to get as painters, right? Yeah, if you've always been limber, then you're one of those people I hated in high school, Twisted Oma, when we had our gymnastics unit, and every other girl was like 50 times more limber than I was. It was terrible. I don't know what it is about me, but I've never had really flexible joints. Although some doctors will tell you that means that you're less likely to get arthritis as you get old in those joints, but I don't know, so I don't know if that's a thing or not. In dogs, it's a thing. Like, the more laxity and flexibility you have in your joints, the more likely your dog is to develop some arthritis as they get older. Although I think that everybody eventually gets a little... Dragon Eye, that's awesome. My husband bet me I couldn't kick him in the head while standing. My flexibility has improved. I didn't hurt him. That's fantastic. Oh gosh, back bends. No, my back would kill me. Like, literally, it would probably just give up. Because it's already really damaged, and so it's just a bad thing. Oh, wow. Yeah, Rax, thank you for the resub. Raccoons of the world unite and resub to our show. Thank you. Alrighty. So let's do some blue. Let's see. I've got my skin tone mixed up. So it's 4 drops, remember, guys, of tan skin. And you guys are going to get so sick of me using tan skin to make other things because that's what we're doing again. So it's tan skin and creamy ivory this time because I wanted something light and a little more golden than your standard tan skin. Tan skin, again, is the most versatile skin tone we make. It's 9044. It's one of the first skin tones I ever created. I think it was actually one of the first 2 colors ever created in Master Series, right after Pure White. Like it was tan skin, rainy gray, and pure white, I think, were the first 3. Followed soon after by burgundy wine, which would make Michael Proctor happy. But the great thing about tan skin is that it's that mid ground between rosy and regular, like more of a golden tan. It has enough reddish brown in it to read as a little bit more red than, say, something like Youthful Flesh, which is really orange. I did actually a mixture of those recently also too. So you can see that it's more red and more brown than something like this, but it's also not rosy skin, right? It's a lot more, neutral than rosy skin. So that what this means is that you can take tan skin and you can tweak it any way you want. You can throw a lot of different things into this to make totally different skin tones, and they will work as skin tones because you're starting with a great foundation here. So, hey, you cannot, like, Elmer hunt my raccoon devotee who just resubbed to this channel, Val. Get your coon hunting hat off. No coon hunting. Plus, you're supposed to be in bed. You're sick. Let's see here. Let's grab some pure white, because, I like pure white. Although I think I actually brought up some highlights with this, adding in more creamy ivory, so I probably should stick to that. Hey, Max Styles, Happy New Year to you, too. Let us hope it is an awesome year. I know I have already committed to saying it's going to be the best year of my life, so now I have to get on that. Because it ain't going to be, unless I try, so... But I will believe. I will believe in this amazing year. That it will be absolutely fantastic. The best one so far. But then I'm an incurable optimist, so... So the more we use creamy ivory and the less we use pure white for this, guys, the more golden our skin tone's going to go. Because obviously creamy ivory just shifts toward that yellow, and so it's going to shift a little bit away from our natural skin tone. But it's still going to all go together because your base is still tan skin, and tan skin is still what your base mix is based on. So there's a little bit of tan skin in this, and as long as there is, you can build good transitions. Hey, Steve AMA. Thank you for the Prime. 3 months. Sweet. Well, I don't know if I'll be published this year, Twistoma, but I will find an agent this year. That's one of my 3 goals. One is out of my control because one of my 3 goals / wishes was for an in-person ReaperCon this year, and I don't know if that's going to be practical. I hope it is going to be practical. Oh, David, we're... But the other 2 things, to get back to Hawaii and to find an agent for my book, are definitely controllable by me. So those 2 things hopefully will be accomplished if I had anything to do with it. Though currently my book is in the limbo of waiting for the agent to get back to me now. Which is the limbo you spend most of your time in when you're submitting manuscript. Although, yeah, we'll see. Last time it took her about a month. Alright, so I'm going to highlight. I think I need one more highlight on the top of that for that rib cage to really come out. So I'm going to actually grab this. And here now, when you get to this point where you've already got a pretty light color, you're fully within your right to start with the creamy ivory and just put a little bit of the tan skin in it to make it go together. In reality, you could probably use this color to highlight that, no problem. But if you put just a little bit of this in it, it'll make it work together better. This is why mixing colors can be very easy. Just stick to 2 colors and mix, and the only color you go other than that is, say, pure white. Or if you're going darker on the other side, maybe the color that you go toward is brown liner or walnut or whatever you're going to use for your shadow. But keep predictable. And mixing will become fun and not nerve-wracking. So now we've got a very warm skin tone that's actually more kind of an off taupey yellow. It's very much more of a skin tone highlight and less of a skin tone in its own right. But we're only going to use this in the very highest highlights on the skin. So what we've done is we've just created a unique skin tone by using tan skin and mixing in a particular color. And this is so easy to do with tan skin. You can also do it with rosy, but rosy skin is a little more, it tends to fight you a little more. For one thing, it's got a lot of white in it. So when you mix other colors into it, you're fighting that white, and you could get some weird shifts if you use anything that has like black in it when you're adding it to rosy skin. And rosy itself is also shifted definitely toward red, so it's not as neutral as tan skin. Now, you can get a very nice skin tone starter by mixing tan skin and rosy skin. That kind of gives you the best of both worlds. Yeah, exactly, Rax. You've got it. Yes, as long as you start with the tan skin, it's possible to do some really nice mixes, make unique skin tones. Yeah, and mixing in some red brown or some red and brown does give you a great suntan or sunburned weathered look. It's very good for that. And if I get any brush strokes, I can go back to my middle color and smooth those out. So now we've got a nice belly on her, and we've got this rib cage highlighted to the point where I wanted it. So that's good. We just need to make sure we've got some skin tone highlighted here, and we've got a little bit over here. I'm still kind of out. Remember, I was kind of the jury's out on the belt and how much I wanted to do. So we're gonna go ahead and glaze over that belt. But then I may decide that I would rather have it be opaque like her brassiere. So we'll see. Yeah, I'm bringing up the highest highlights because what I was saying, Shadow Raven, when I started is that when you put that blue over the top, it's going to dampen everything down. So you need to already have your highest highlight in place when you throw that on there, because when you're dealing, especially with blue, it's easier with some colors, but because blue is complementary to the skin tone counts as orange. Mixing the two to highlight after the fact while retaining that transparent look is really hard. Really hard because it just wants to mute out and go gray. So the way around this is to at least have most of your highlights already set, then glaze. I hope they didn't freeze, Nomad Zeke. Oh, Masterclass? Yeah, there's some good ones on there, Twisted Oma. I did a writing one. There was a writing, I think Neil Gaiman did a writing one, and there's a couple of really good writing ones on there. I don't know about, I haven't looked at their other subject matter, but they have a lot of really, really good instructors teaching, people who are really well known, teaching that sort of thing. So that could be fun. It could totally eat your life, but you'll learn a lot. Yeah, if I was doing something like a green or a purple Shadow Raven, I wouldn't have to worry about this so much. Because in my experience, yellowish greens and purples, because they work so well with skin tones naturally, they tend to, at least reddish purples do. So then sometimes you can get away with mixing your skin tone with the red, the purple, or the yellow green, and re-accentuate your highlight that way. But with blue, it really makes it gray. And so to get around that, that's why blue is the most difficult color, in my opinion, to do translucent cloth with. You really have to put everything down naturally and get it really pumped up, and then you have to hit it with that glaze and not touch it. Unless you're very brave. And I might have to be very brave if this doesn't work, but we're about to glaze, so. And we're going to go really, really lightweight with this glaze, guys. Super duper lightweight. So 1 drop of paint. I think I will use some sealer in this, which should tell you guys just how nerve-wracking this is. I want it to be really translucent. I want it to go down in a nice thin layer. And you really want to paint in sections on this one, guys, so finish a complete section as you go. so that it dries, it self-levels and dries in a nice solid layer, so it doesn't get, you don't get brush strokes, because brush strokes are death when you're doing this. Any suggestion of brush strokes destroys your illusion. I'm almost gonna do, yeah, I'm gonna build a wash with it. So 4 drops of sealer, 2 drops of water, 1 drop of paint. I'm gonna see how that is. This is a pretty, this blue is not like the heaviest coverage blue, so that may be enough. And if not, I can add more stuff. Oh, but this blue that still might be pretty strong, actually. Let's see here. So there is my blue. It's very see-through. That's good. But I feel like it's got a little bit of a gummy consistency, which is what the sealer does. And I don't want that. So I'm going to add 1 more drop of water. That's my only problem with mediums and sealers. I've noted that lately for you guys, I know. But it's the problem with using glazing mediums when you're doing this stuff is that it does create a skin a lot faster. You'll notice it feels less watery. That's not necessarily a good thing. All right, let's try to play with that now. That's a lot more natural feeling. It's not as gummy. I'm not seeing that. It should still self-level pretty well. So what I'm going to do is do this piece by piece. So first we're going to do this piece under her rib cage. We're going to do it all the way around to the back. Then we'll do the other piece on the other side. Then when we come down here, we'll do her belt first. And then we'll do each leg and work those together down here below. So, and then we're going to assess after it dries if we need more. And the other thing we're going to do is that we're going to, where there are folds, we're going to actually add more for sure, because it's where the fold pulls away from the skin, you're going to see more of the color. So you want to make sure you have enough on your brush. So don't worry about a super awesome tip or anything. Do keep a decent tip. You don't want to flood the area, because then you're going to have a hard time controlling it. But you want to paint it just gently over the top, around to the back. Any puddles can be dragged up onto the band up here. You don't want puddles though, so if you see too many puddles, quick rinse out your brush, bring it back, and really quick wick them off. So we're going to get some subtle. See how it's going more gray now? We may have to do a couple of layers, or maybe not. It depends. So I'll demonstrate after we do the other side here. And remember, when you're glazing, that subtlety is where it's at, because you can always add another layer, but you can't take any off without painting over the whole thing. So be careful. If you are not sure, go gently, do a couple of layers instead of trying to do one thick layer just to get it over with. All right, so we've got, see how that's darkened down that in the back? That's fine, you'll get it, Val. I'll go back and do it. When I'm this close zoomed in, that is the problem with a small mini. Here, I'll do it one hip so you can see it. It's honestly, see, not much on my brush, but enough. Just brush it on. Make sure you're brushing it on smooth. Don't let it pool. And do it one piece at a time. That's it. Super not difficult. That's why you do it a little bit at a time. Just to get that little bit. Yeah, like you have a choice. Either I stay this zoomed in and I get off camera periodically, or I zoom out and then you guys can't see the brush strokes. So I'm doing my best. It does happen every once in a while. But yeah, it really is. You don't want a lot of paint on your brush. You want to do each little section at a time. You should be able to see the color, even if it's just a tiny little bit of color. So remember, you can always put more on. It's not a big deal. But that's exactly what I did up here. I just painted it right over this area. And you can see that it's slightly tinted at blue, right? So I'll do the hips here, the other hip, and then I'll do the top. But yeah, I do glance up and make sure I'm on camera, but often I'm glancing up after I do the section. So I may have gotten off camera in the meantime. It is the downside of the zoom. So now I've got some pooling in there, see, and I don't want it. So I'm going to rinse out my brush, squeeze it out, and just kind of dab those little bits away. Because, guys, you don't want it to pool because the areas in the bottom of the folds are actually what's going to be closest to the skin, and that's what's going to carry your skin color. It's the top of the folds that you want more color on because as cloth folds away from the skin, it's going to, not show the skin under it. It's going to show the real color of the cloth. So that is the great challenge with translucent cloth. And it's why I'm not sure that I want to even go transparent with this belt. And we're going to kind of experiment and see because it's got so many folds on it that I'm not convinced that there would be any skin showing through. With something that's folded so much, often it wouldn't because you don't have enough surface area of cloth that's pressed directly against the skin. So, and in the light. We'll do... If you just want to do a thin layer and kind of end it down here, you can, because you're going to be making this solid blue. So one little thin layer of blue that kind of trails off is not going to affect your blue base down here. So now let's do these thighs. And then we'll work on what I was talking about with those folds, making those folds stand out a little bit more. And again, you can have a fair amount of paint on your brush. You can see a ton of it. No, because then I'd have somebody sitting over my shoulder. And the camera would be moving all the time, which I find even worse. Like, it's bad enough that it's right here in my face, Pendrake. And let's face it, most of the time I stay on camera, so I don't think it's really a problem. Alright, So, again, start at an edge, guys. Don't start in the middle. Start at an edge and work down. Pull the paint in a thin layer over the whole surface you're going to do. Start at your edge, work down. Like I said, if it trails off and you don't get all of it down here on the cloth, that's fine. You can leave it. If you get an edge there that kind of dries, it won't matter. Start at that edge and move down. Which is going to leave us just a very faint filter. And always assess, see if you've got anything pooling that can make trouble for you. Because at this point, it's probably going to dry in rings. Because you've made it so very thin. So you can see a slight difference. You can see how the skin is cooled off in the areas that I have added this over. And how it's still very warm in the middle. But it's still not really convincingly blue. So there's a way to do that that does not involve further glazes, and that is to paint the folds in a stronger blue, which is going to hopefully still convey that there's blue over this area, and that it is kind of going into this. So we will now mix a stronger mixture. Kazoon tight, bless you, David, says chat. Lasers. Obviously, I need lasers. Everybody needs lasers, especially if they're on the heads of sharks. Alrighty. So let's mix up. Remember, we're using tropical blue because it's pretty and tropical and festive. I'm going to do 2 drops this time. I'm going to maybe put 1 drop of sealer on it, but I'm not needing this to be a really... Maybe I won't. I do want it to go a little more translucent. I'm going to add 1 drop of sealer. Then I'm just going to use water. I don't think you could make stilts that could hold a whale unless you used, really, like steel or something. Whales are heavy. So I've got 3 drops of water, 2 drops of paint, 1 drop of brush-on sealer. We're going to mix that up and see if I like it. I need something that's going to be a good layering consistency, but still pretty subtle. I want to build up to it. So, watching how this falls off the side of the palette, kind of do a little dab. It's see-through here, it's strong here, that's perfect layering consistency. That's why these palettes are nice, they let you judge that. It should be almost invisible out here. There is a little bit of body to it out here, but I think it'll be good enough. We'll find out. It probably sounded less loud because he's facing away from where my directional mic is pointed. I can make an Austin Powers reference. I like Austin Powers. All right. Well, I haven't rewatched it for an age. Because I'm just like, visual media is not my thing these days. Alrighty. So, we've got our paint. It is layering paint. And now we're looking at these folds. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to paint these little folds with a slightly stronger layer of blue. And the challenge here, guys, is that we're going to see now how much skin tone we get actually still showing through. And we may need to really pull it back and not add too much blue to this, because we're going to lose the skin tone. And this is just how the cloth is sculpted, right? It's got folds that are sticking out away from the skin, but they're really lightweight, right? Everything is still plastered up against the skin. So I have to choose like how much blue I'm really going to add to this. The other rule of transparent cloth is that usually the skin is going to show more where it's in the light, and it's going to show less where it's in the shadow. So I'm going to paint some blue where the ribcage here starts dipping into shadow. So I'm going to bring in a stronger layer of blue there. So our first coat was just a general wash over, and now we're being more precise with layering. And we'll see. The other thing I can do is kind of make the outer edge a little more blue and leave more skin tone showing through in the middle. But that is looking definitely more blue now. That's shifted blue. Hey, no problem, Canadian Ancient Gamer. I mean, she's a nice little figure. And she's a great practice for skin tone and for, you know, floopy cloth. I mean, if you're trying to practice doing transparent cloth, this is a really good one. What you're looking for always is cloth that's pressed really close up against the skin areas. So this is a little iffy up here on this one. I'm probably going to darken in my blue right under the brassiere because there'd be shadows. So now I've gotten kind of getting really picky and selective as to where I make my blue a little heavier. And we're working up to it, right? We're not just painting blue stripes on it. We're using a paint that's really thin so that we can keep an eye on it, because we still want to be able to kind of see our skin tone through it. We can't cover up the skin tone or we've lost the transparent effect. Alrighty, let's see on this other side. There's going to be a lot of blue in the shadow. And then I think I'm going to maybe, It's tempting to mix a slightly heavier blues to do this this lower border of this filmy scarf thing. Just that little outward line. So maybe I'll do that. Having a little bit stronger version of this color wouldn't be bad where I need it. So let's do a 3 drop of this and just add 2 drops of water. It's where it's almost a 1-to-1. Hey, Smallish Sam, thank you for the resub. Super. 4 months. Okay, now this is a much stronger blue. It's more like a 1.5 paint to 1 water. But I know this blue tends to be a little transparent, so this is what we've got. So if you look at our thinnest blue, it's just pure water, right? If you look at this blue, our layering blue, it's a little heavier, right? So you can see the difference between that and that, right? Then, if you look at our latest blue, which is the 3 drops of blue, that's really solid. So that's kind of the example for you guys of like a layering, a glazing, and then this is more almost not really a base coat, but it's more of just a general highlighting if I need to block in highlights. It could be a base coat if you put a couple of coats over white primer. But it's just kind of an example to you guys of the different paint consistencies I'm using and what they look like. And I would say these are very indicative of the way I usually paint. I will often have these 3 consistencies when I'm working with highlighting or anything like that. So, all right, so now I've got a heavier blue, but still thin. And the reason it's still really thin is that I want it to come off my brush really evenly. And now I've decided I'm going to put a tiny, like this bottom part of this blue thing, I want it to be actually blue. So I'm going to pick it up and just paint a little line, like almost over my lining, but a little bit, you know, leave a little bit of blue higher up on the cloth to make that more of a blue border there. What I'm essentially going to pretend is that as the cloth kind of falls down here, it scrunches up a little bit, so it gives us more blue. And doing this should result in really seeing the see-through come through, yeah. And that's about as much as I would do, guys. Like, if you cover up any more of this fabric here, I'm going to just get a fold and see. But if you cover up any more, you're going to really risk losing that translucent effect. So you do need to make sure your folds look a little bit darker, but be really careful. There, like so. Well, it's like, it's all brush control, paint consistency, and brush loading, right? Like, that's all this is. This is why I can do this, is that I understand how little paint to have on my brush. I understand the consistency I should have it at. And then it's just motor control. So all of these things can be challenges to you when you are starting out in mini painting, or even when you've been like, you know, kind of like an intermediate level painter for a while. And that's why I encourage you guys to work with a palette like this. Even though, you know, you can keep your wet palette, you can still use your wet palette. But when you're learning paint consistency and really learning, like, what thinness you need to do certain techniques, it's so much more helpful to you as a beginner, I think, to use a well palette as well. And to understand, you know, that there's a difference between a glaze and layering, and, you know, then doing it maybe some detail or touch-up work consistency. And that getting familiar with your different paint consistencies is what makes this look easy. That and my brush control. But brush control will come to you. Like, when you keep painting 28 millimeters, it's inevitable your brush control is going to get better, as long as you actually try. But it will get better. And you can speed it up by specifically trying to tackle it as far as brush control. The paint consistency knowledge is something that you've got to experiment with. But it is easy to experiment with it. You could set up an exercise where you mix like 3 different colors like this. Maybe even an additional one that's more of a base coat. Maybe a 4:1 paint to water, right? And then experiment on a piece of paper with, what can I do with this? How much does it color the surface, right? How thin of a line can I draw with it? Stuff like that. Yeah, good brushes level you up instantly, Dragon. They're the easy one. Okay, so of all the ways to level up, getting a good brush is the easiest way. It's the one that you can just spend money in and it happens, right? Because it enables you to hit all of the little details. But you still got to have that fine motor control built too to get some of the finest details. And then after that, you need to understand your paint consistency to really be able to do what you want to do. And not just paint consistency, but how much to load and unload your brush. That's why I did a recent Patreon thing about how to unload your brush. Like, I think that's like the thing that nobody talks about. That's maybe one of the most important things for getting to be a better miniature painter, is how to load and unload your brush, period. Because people don't think about it. They thin their paint, but then they don't know how to utilize that paint in a controlled way. And that's really what it depends on. Because it's hard to work with paint that is thinner. So we've got this pretty good, guys. We can still see our skin tone. We can see, the nice thing about having done the the brassiere in, or the bikini top in the solid blue, by the way, is that it really does show, like, give us a good comparison. Like, it's very evident then that this is opaque and this is transparent. And that helps carry, having something opaque next to something transparent helps carry that effect. Down here, we'll get the same thing, but we'll get it because our cloth is going to return to opacity when it gets away from the skin. Like, it's going to go full blue, which is why I've got this heavier blue. So let us try to get that effect. So this is about a 1.5 to 1 paint to water. And I'm going to take my intermediate layering color and I'm going to blend this in while it's still wet. I'm going to bring it up under that knee. You don't want very much paint on your brush because it is going to dry weirdly if you have too much on your brush. So we want to bring that up. Right. Brush control and paste consistency just takes practice. Well, and awareness of it, right? I'm going to bring this up even a little bit more. And then I might even layer with my glazing color if I want to really blend this in. So you get that fade, right? You want that fade. You don't want to lose all your skin tone. You definitely don't want to lose it right here because this little piece of cloth is sticking in and it's getting in the way. So the one thing you don't want is to have everything blue below that line and everything like skin tone above it. So I either want my blue to go up a little bit more or I want my skin tone to stay down a little bit more. And either way, or I can do both. So there. Now I can get this down here. Now I'm going to use my heavier paint again to get this to be more solid blue. I'm just going to do this one fold because it doesn't matter if I've got kind of a brush mark in the fold there. I can just shade it down. All right. But what we really want is for this to look correct here. So I'm going to go back to my layering consistency blue to try to blend this in again. I do want to keep this skin tone. Remember, I want to keep a little bit of skin tone underneath this flingy cloth bit. But I need to also create a blend here. So that's pretty good right there where the knee comes down. As the cloth comes away from it, then you see that it returns to more blue, and that's the way it should be. The minute the cloth does not press against the skin is when the cloth should be its own color again, guys. There won't be any skin there. This is really what makes some models really good for this technique and others not very good. You do need that cloth pressed up against the body so that you can see that it is pressed really up against the body in order to get this effect and make it look real, make it look right. So it does depend a lot on the sculpt. Like some sculpts you look at and you're like, oh yeah, I could do transparent cloth on that. And some you're looking at it going, how do they expect me to do transparent cloth on that? All right, so let's take our blue here and we can start blocking it in over here. And we can take it up here and start getting this side. Now this side we don't have this little annoying piece of cloth going in, so we have a lot more room to blend. So we can take our time and set that up. And do this part. Remember wherever it goes away from the light and where it starts to come away from the skin. But this is not layering consistency. So I'm going to grab my middle layering consistency paint and do that. Because that's going to work much better for blending. And then if I find that I really need a smoother transition here, he just, I don't know, it could be because it's rainy today. He went out to get his pastry, his morning pastry this morning in the rain, so maybe walking in the rain has made his sinuses act up a little. But you can also layer with glazes, guys. So right now that's what I'm doing. I grabbed my glaze color And because this leg area is away from the light, I'm taking advantage of that to pull it down. Now I feel like I need a better transition here still, but I'm going to at least block in more of this blue. And then we're going to back up and see. So I still need to do the belt, right? The belt is still the big question mark here. It feels like it does need to be opaque right now is what I'm thinking. I was debating leaving it a little translucent, but again, the number of folds makes that very difficult. So what I'll probably start to do is try to get these folds in, see if I can keep any of the skin. If I can't keep any of the skin, I'm going to be okay with that. But given this, if you look at, remember how I talk about alternating lights and darks, guys? So if we count this very solid blue as a dark and the skin as a light, we are missing a dark here. So I think that it's going to look a lot better if it's skin, cloth, skin, cloth, skin, cloth, instead of making this translucent and making all of this center area skin. I just think it's going to be a little bit better. It's probably also going to draw more attention to her midriff, which is good because we, painted her a sexy belly, so we want people to look at it a little bit. So I think I'm going to bring in a little bit of layering here on this waist. And see what I can do. So layering paint is, of course, that middle paint. It's more close to a 1-to-1 mix. I'm going to at least layer in the bottom and the top. We'll start with that. Remember how we accentuated the bottom edge of this? So we'll accentuate the bottom edge of this belt. There's also a thing where you can see it a little bit, but there are folds here coming off of the belt. So I do also technically need those to be a little bit more blue. So I'm going to bring in my layering and probably even some of my glaze. And I'm going to selectively glaze those little folds. See how those little folds come out now. So it's not all stuck against the skin. There is some fold action there. And the challenge then is blending that in without losing your skin tone. You don't want to kill your highlight. So you suggest just a little bit of cloth there. Yes, David has today off. He is lucky. All right, so I'm bringing in more blue right up against this jewelry because it's going to be bunching behind here, the way I'm thinking. Because this metal disc, or the shiny disc, is going to be kind of holding on parts of this. So now I'm bringing in that, and I'm trying to figure out if I can get away with leaving any skin color here at all, or if I'm doomed. I think there's just too many bunches here, guys. I think it's doomed. Let's put a layer of solid blue over it to kind of pull things together. I may be able to leave just a little hints, right? Maybe. That's a little bit better. But again, these are folds, and so these folds need to be more of a blue. And at that point, I'm going to be highlighting those folds with a lighter blue instead of a skin color. So it is really, the design of the belt here really does say that it's not going to be see-through. Like, if it had a more broad portion pressed up against the hip very smoothly without all these folds. Well, he works from home for now, for instance, but I mean, by the summer, Google employees hopefully will be partially back in the office. David misses the office. He's one of those people who actually does miss office. I don't know if I would or not. I mean, now that I'm all a work from home freelance and myself, I kind of am liking it. Like, I could see how you'd miss being, like, face-to-face with people, though, if you had to collaborate more with people. So we're blocking in some blue here. Again, I'm using my layering consistency, which is going to bring it up a little faster than the glazing consistency. But it's not going to be quite as heavy-handed as my 1.5 to 1 mix. So we're sneaking in, right? We're sneaking in gently to introducing more blue here and seeing how it works. Now, the other thing that can be counterintuitive if we were to try to keep our skin tones here, guys, is that the skin tone is lighter than the blue. So that means the area inside the fold goes lighter than the area outside the fold. And that is also fighting us in our quest to keep part of this belt transparent. So at that point, you really are more or less coming to terms with the fact that you have to make this belt opaque. There's not enough broad spaces for the skin to show through to look correct, especially not at this scale. If this were a bigger model where some of these folds, the spaces on the inside of some of these folds would probably be a little flat against the skin, you could do it. But as it stands, I'm going to start filling in those areas that we kept with skin tone with blue instead, because I don't think it's going to work. Now here we have a little bit of a difference. There is some skin area in here, but there's still also a lot of folds. And technically, this is going to be the groin area, so there's not going to be, like, really skin pressed up against here anyway. Because this is where her legs will be, you know, the space between her legs. So you're not going to get... There's no more midriff here, so... If this was across her belly, we might be able to pull something. But as it is, I think darkening it makes more sense. So as you paint your translucent cloth, remember to be logical about what things are behind it and thus whether there will be skin there. Wow, Dogfather, that's crazy. Yeah, that used to be, Reaper used to kind of do that too, though. I mean, it's New Year's Day to 4th of July almost, I think. And yeah, you can take time off. You just don't get any of the so-called bank holidays, right? Reaper since then has added in more days off. But a small company sometimes just really can't afford to do a lot of days off, a lot of paid days off, right? David, you're alarming them with your hacking and sneezing. No comment. I think he should make himself some hot tea. So, all right, over here, again, we're kind of pulling the blue in right around this medallion. And I'm once again questioning. Now, back here, notice, back here, we do have an area where where the folds are a little fewer. So back here on the rump, so to speak, we could possibly get away with a little more transparency. Oh, typical insurance company? Yeah. It's okay, Tristoma. Feel free to worry about David. I think he's fine. I suspect, I don't know, when it gets wet out, like, I'm fine today, but if this, the day after it's wet, usually, is when my allergies kick in and go, hey, there's mold! So, yeah, expect me to be wheezing a bit tomorrow, probably. Alright, I'm going to get the top and bottom edges again. And I'll have to decide if I'm going to just cover it over or just try to maybe keep some of this see-through stuff. Because we've got a fold on the bottom. There's a fold right here. And then there's a fold up here. But then we have some area that is arguably not fold. And this little space right here is arguably not fold. So we're going to paint in the stuff that is fold. And then we're going to assess and see if we can keep some of our transparency. And I am going to fade it in here and here. The answer is maybe. I do have some folds coming around from this side that I have to deal with. Can't just look at one side or the other. I have to look kind of at this side transition area also. So we may be able to suggest a little bit, as you can see, of transparency on this side because the folds are a little farther apart. Okay, so bringing those folds in, you can see that there are folds coming in from the front that may have just kind of gotten lost on this side. I'm going to connect them to the top a little bit. There are some, essentially there are still folds here, but there's lesser folds. There's not as much. And we need to like blend this in here. So really the only area that's really pressed up against the skin is here and maybe a little bit here. So I'm going to bring the blue up pretty far here. So let's block in our bottom. Our bottom, haha, see what I did there? I have many things to do today. What about you guys? Do you have huge to-do lists today? I have a lot of to-do lists today. I'm gonna just be trying to work my way through everything after I relaxed on the weekend for the most part. But we did have our duck for New Year's, so today I have to make my duck risotto because I reduced the carcass to broth. So now I have all this tasty duck broth to use. All right, so I went a little bit harsh. You can see those brush strokes there, right? We don't want that, so we're gonna grab our eek. We're gonna drop our brush and put our entire model in jeopardy. No, we're not. We're gonna grab a different brush. Doo-doo. When one brush betrays you, reach for your second brush. We're gonna grab some of our layering consistency paint, and while our edge is still a little wet here, we're gonna try to blend it in. We still have our skin tones open, so if we needed to redo this edge, we could. Like if I feel like I get too much, like I went too strong here, although there are folds coming up here that should be pretty opaque, so all things considered, I think I'm going to be okay. Grab some layering stuff. My coordination today is not awesome, I'll tell you that. Now remember, we already have one layer of blue over this, and that's going to help us blend all this stuff in. We had a really thin glazed layer. And we're going to need that to get stronger. Because a lot of this area I've painted as skin actually wouldn't show skin through. So we have a lot of room to blend in this blue. And even probably a little bit more over the skin there. We're getting there. Oh, email backlog. Ugh. Oh no. Oh, the cat's got your duck broth? Oh, that's good, Inara. Spring rolls is a good idea. I love to make risotto. I use half cauliflower rice and half arborio rice to make it a little lower carb for me. But I just love duck and mushroom risotto. So that is what I'm doing tonight. Okay, we're getting that blue up there. We really want to cover a lot of this skin. We want really only just a hint of it. Because a lot of this back drape is away from the skin, and you can tell because there's the shape of the leg and even her butt like shape is just a little bit there, which is where I'm keeping the majority of the skin, but the rest of it is really cloth. Hey there, HM Road Dog. Thank you with the reprime sub. Woohoo! Hey, Justin, what are we at for... We must be getting really close to our AMA. Justin fell asleep. I was too chill for him this morning. Either that or he actually had to run off and work. I probably picked the moment he ran to the bathroom, right? I think I want to try spring rolls because I have spring roll wrappers. Oh, my brush is all the way across, like underneath my desk, almost to under David's desk. I'm gonna grab it because I do want my bigger brush for this. Come here, bigger brush. 1 second. Must get thing. There. Now, don't encourage, like, you know, Ed. Justin already has to fight, you know, I do a job, I do work. Don't give Ed more ammunition here, Shadow Raven. Are you working hard or hardly working? Right? Alright, so there we go. So that's pretty okay. We'll deal with that. Yeah, spring rolls do sound good. Next time I do pork, I actually got some pork belly because, you know, it's available over the holidays, apparently, and it's something they only carry over the holidays around here for the most part. So I got some pork belly to make my Asian 5-spice sriracha pork belly with. After that, if I do that, maybe some of that pork belly can go into spring rolls. That would be tasty. Yeah, production is the unsung hero of all entertainment. You are absolutely correct, HMR Dog. Alright, so we're doing okay here. I think I'm going to grab my layering consistency blue and sculpt her derriere a little bit more. So I'm ending up covering up a lot of that skin tone that I originally had there, right? And that was just, that's fine because it was just me blocking in the area. So if I decide not to keep it, I decide not to keep it. It's all good. I bring in this blue a little bit more here using my more thicker mixture. That's getting there. So I really have to still decide what I'm doing with this area and if I'm going to keep it blue or not. This is edutainment, yes, totally. Edutainment's the best. I love edutainment. I actually just, for the new year, also picked up a couple of online art courses. Wanting to up my game. Can always up your game. Alright, so that still has a little bit of skin showing through, and I probably need to glaze over it because that's a little bit too abrupt. Oh yeah, fried food does, yeah. Yep, everybody's got their gut issues, right? Me too. Although I actually went back solidly on my low carb now that the holidays are over. I have a weight loss goal this year because I definitely put on a few pounds from a few years ago when I hit my lowest on keto. But I'm not going to do keto this time. I'm going to do low carb, but I'm tracking what I eat a lot, which does work for me. So, all right, I've got a little bit of a fold over here that I just saw. It's a weird fold, but I do need to address it. So I'm going to grab my layering paint and make it a little more blue. I was going to leave not much of her butt, but there's definitely a fold there. Can't ignore it. Must work with it. And there's not much skin showing here, but there is just a little. And we may lose a lot of it because I'm gotta solidify the blue around this bling. And then I've got to highlight the blue, and that's going to make it, you know, that's also going to affect the skin. But yeah, the problem with the blue is just that, like I said, once you go too much, I forgot to do the lower edge of it back here. Once you go too much, it's really hard. If I tried to mix the blue with our skin tone to make kind of a in-between thing, I could, but it would go very greeny gray. See? When I mix the skin tone into there. So it would be very difficult to use this as a transition because I keep a lot more vibrancy, right? If I don't mix these colors, because these colors being like on the color wheel, you know, opposite each other, mean that they really do make gray when you mix them. And using that as kind of a mid-tone on the skin here, it would really dull down your skin warmth, right? So it makes it very difficult to correct here. If you did have to correct any of your transparent cloth glazes, what I would recommend doing is just painting over it with the skin tone again and then redoing your glazes. Because you're always going to have at least one glaze of that blue. Speaking of which, I was just thinking I needed an extra glaze of blue over this and over this. So now that brings that blue in more like it is under here. Though the thighs are going to be the area that gets the most skin tone because it's so smooth and the cloth is right up against it. Yeah, it's cool how everybody works differently with diets, right? Like everybody, it seems to me, most people I know, you know, who have been trying to lose weight for ages, they've tried just about everything. And eventually you hit on something that actually works for you. And it's different for everybody. Like keto really worked for me, whereas nothing had done it before. But now that I've messed around with keto and low carb long enough, I kind of have a feel for it. So I think I can re-lose the weight on just doing the low carb. We'll see. My low carb is quite low carb. It's not quite keto. There we go. All right, so we've got more blue on the legs there. Now we definitely have a different shift here than we do here, so that's going to show along with bringing this these blue shadows and the blue cloth up here where it needs to be. This is going to show that we do indeed have a transparent cloth. And those little folds there are going to work with us on that. They're going to say, hey, look, there's cloth here. And I've got to get this fold in the front that I totally forgot. If you must stop halfway across, like usually when I paint an area, I start at wet edge and I go all the way around and I hook it up on the other side. But wherever you must leave an edge to dry to later paint over, make it down in a fold or on the side of the figure so that you don't end up having like an unsightly line as you're putting wet paint over dry paint. So you don't have that line appearing in a key point like on the front of the figure or the back where it's very easy to see. You can hide it on the side, you can hide it in a fold. In this case, I, left it in a fold here and there so that when I came back, it's not going to be real evident. Right, exactly. You do it long enough, and everybody's body is different, right? So it has to be different for everybody. Like Weight Watchers really didn't work for me because if I go too high carb, I stay hungry all the time and I just can't do it. But low carb works for me because it, stabilizes my blood sugar and works against, I've got a family history of prediabetes and several female relatives who were pre-diabetic and a male relative who's type 2. And so, I've got to watch that. So for me, the low carb really works for that because you don't get the blood sugar spikes that you do on a higher carb diet. Cheese crisps. Oh, you can do low carb cookies. Like, ask David. I made tasty cookies last night, and they were totally low-carb, Dogfather. The answer is almond flour. Or a mixture of almond and coconut flour, if you do, a paleo mix. But I use mostly almond flour, and then I use a little bit of a gluten-free flour mix, just to give it a little bit of a, of a more cookie texture. But my Danish butter cookies taste amazing, and it's all low carb. I use Swerve as the sweetener, which is alcohol sugars, but it's not as strong as xylitol. But yeah, totally. Also, you can make cheese crisps if you like crackers. The Dogfather, the key here, okay? So you can ignore me if you want. Everybody's different. But for me, the key was to not concentrate on the differentness. I knew it was going to have a different texture. And what I was aiming for was, does it taste like a cookie? And how far can I get? So go into it with that mindset. Mindset's so important if you're going to go low carb. You can make amazing, tasty stuff. Just concentrate on the amazing, tasty stuff you can make and still eat. And that helps so much. It helped me so much. So for me, I know my butter cookies don't quite have the same crispiness as my mom's, right? But they taste exactly the same, and they are still pretty tasty. You know, if they're tasty enough for my non-low carb boyfriend to like devour when he finds them on the counter, or last night on the table while they were cooling. Oh, sorry. But yeah, so the best thing for low carb for me was just to not concentrate on how different it was. Like, you know, it's going to be a different thing, but for me, the flavor was key. If I could hit the flavor, even if the texture of the cookie wasn't quite the same, then I was good. So every cookie I made over the holiday season was low carb, and they were good enough for David to happily eat. So, you know, they can't match his mom's cookies. Nobody can match your mom's cookies, right? But they were still good. So it is totally doable. But yeah, any diet, I think, right? What do you guys think? Any diet is probably mindset is your key, right? That you should concentrate on the things that you can still eat that you really love. Like, I think that's what makes any diet successful. Because if I sit here and I dwell on the fact that I can't have pizza and I can't have, beer and I can't have, this and that and the other thing, then I'm just going to feel sad. And I would much rather look at all the tasty things I make that I can have. There we go. Yeah, easing in. I agree. Like, so really, I don't know if you do your own baking or if another family member is the baker in your house, Dogfather, but you could ask them to help you try out some low-carb cookie recipes and see if you can find something that you really like. Because, yeah, I was a cracker fiend when I went low carb, and I was just, like, so depressed that I wouldn't be able to have crackers. So I did set out to find a good gluten-free and then later low-carb cracker. So, it took a while. But that was, I totally feel you, because, it's hard, right, when you're shifting your lifestyle, and you're used to being able to eat what you want, but you know that you probably need to make some changes. I guess what made up for it for me too is that I feel so much better on the low carb. Like, even I went off my low carb for the holidays, and by the end of it, I was just like, oh, I have to get back on low carb. I feel so crappy. There we go. So, all right. So I'm re-emphasizing the folds here. Are you back yet, Justin? Are you there? I do not hear Justin. He's abandoned us. He's gotten sucked into a meeting, I bet. Hello, Batusai. What colors used to achieve the color for the skin? So do you mean where I'm doing the transparent cloth, or do you mean my regular skin color? My regular skin color, I'll answer both questions, is 4 drops of tanned skin, 9044 Reaper, and then 2 drops of creamy ivory. And then I just added more creamy ivory to build up my highlight colors. And I punched my highlights up super high. And if you go catch the VOD of this, Batusai, you can totally see it, because I have done all of this glazing since we started. And then I mixed various levels of blue. You can see this one is really thin. And this one is more like layering consistency. And this one is a bit thicker. So I use my very thin glaze over the top of the skin tones where the cloth is right up next to the body to give that translucent effect. Thanks, Potato Forge. Yeah, I'm glad you like our minis. I think we do a lot of really good stuff. Hey, Daka Daka. Yeah, just be careful on DACA. I know. A lot of people do react to swerve. Swerve is kind of an erythritol with a bit of stevia in it. It works pretty well. Um, but yeah, definitely if you react to it, be careful with it. Might sadly it is the closest to sugar tasting of the non-sugar sugars. So, but yeah, so that is how we did this. Let me get back down here. Ah, thank you, Batusai. I'm glad you like it. Yeah, I also have those issues. Just catching up with chat 1 second, guys. Ah, okay. Yeah, this is the Reaper tan skin is a really versatile color. Batusai. It's I actually talked about this at the beginning of the stream, so you can like go back and catch the VOD if you want. But yeah, if you can pretty much mix any off-white or cream color or into it to get highlights, really good highlights, and then it works. In this case, it's almost the shadow for this skin. And then you can also, if you want to darken it, adding red and brown will give you a great sunburn color. And just adding normal, like other browns, can give you a good shadow in general. So tan skin is a really versatile, just start from here color for skin. All different kinds of skin. And you can also mix it with other skin tones. I just did a mix of these guys. When I was doing the head here, this head. So this is like 9445 and 9044. So these are two different Reaper skin tones. And so you can create all sorts of different skin tones working with tan skin mixed with other things. I like tan skin because I also like its consistency and just the way, its load of pigment. So yeah, honey is good, but if you have to watch your carb load, honey is still carby. Like, it's a good natural sugar. And I still use a little bit of it in tea from time to time, especially chai. Yeah, Splenda. I used to use a lot of Splenda Dragon Pink. Yeah, and Splenda also is a great baking sweetener. I mean, it's kind of question mark as far as like how far it impacts your blood sugar. So I would, if that's your goal, like it really depends on what your goal is, right? Like if you're trying to not get your blood sugar affected, or if you're just looking for 0 calorie. If you're looking for a convincing sweetener that does 0 calorie, and I don't think Splenda has any bad effects linked to it at this point, always do your research. But I used to use it to bake cookies, and it was really, really convincing in cookies. Stevia I use in my tea in the morning. But I've found that I have to be careful with it, potato forge, because my body does not like too much of it. Everybody's got to like find their own thing, right? Stevia also has a little bit of an aftertaste that some people don't like, especially if you're doing chocolate baked products. Beware. Chocolate for some reason seems to accentuate stevia's aftertaste. So that's when I started going more towards Swerve, because I was doing chocolate brownies and things like that were low carb. And I was pleasantly happy with it. I was pleasantly surprised by it. There we go. So I'm going to add a little bit more blue just around the edges here, guys. These the loincloth and these little flags on the side of her, these little veils on the side, I'm going to do in a contrasting color. I'm probably going to do them in like a magenta or a pink, just to give us a splash of bright color. And they go up to her armbands here, so I can carry that color up and probably do her headband in the same color. But yeah, she's coming along. Yeah, I can deal. I have a stevia monk fruit blend that I use in my tea in the morning, and I'm decent with that, Francis. But I'm with you when the aftertaste gets too strong. It's not fun. It's all that experimentation, right? But yeah, I'm pretty happy with Swerve. I use it a lot for my baking. There. Yeah, it is when switching, like for me, I need to go the other way. I need to get out my orc bust and do that, right, Potato? Because I paint a lot of sexy women because I enjoy it. But yeah, it's good to switch it up, right? Especially if you're feeling kind of burned out. You can, and you usually do a lot of monsters. Switch to something like this that's a pretty little figure with a lot of smooth skin, and it'll work on different techniques for you. But yeah, it is a good challenge because you've got these areas. Now, she is tiny, too, so a lot smaller and finer detailed than, like, a big orc. So that also switches up, like, a little bit of what you have to do, right? So, alrighty, let's see here. So we're good. We've got our blues blocked in. We need to highlight our blues, actually. And I need to decide if these little lines around her brassiere are gold trim, and they probably are, in which case I need to line them right now. Where is my liner? Brown liner. I'm liking the transparent effect so far, though. Turned out well. Yeah, low glycemic foods are good. I just upped my vegetable intake a lot. I don't do whole grains because I'm obviously low carb, and beans and peas also are kind of off my diet unless I pressure cook them and use only a very small amount. But I eat a lot of vegetables every day. And I really love Miracle Noodles. If I haven't mentioned that, Miracle Noodles saved my life. Like, I totally was unable to find a good pasta sub. And Miracle Noodles are not the kind of pasta, like, necessarily that you'd use for some dishes. But in general, they seem to, like, have the noodly rubberiness that I'm looking for. And they're 0 calories. I'm into the Miracle Noodle. Let's see here. Yeah, this is, I mean, we do a lot of as Shadow Raven says, Reaper does a lot of non-overly sexualized miniatures. It's really not what we're into. We're more of a family-friendly company. We still have some sexy ladies out there. There are a couple, but in general, you're going to find that our models are a little more tasteful. Our CEO has just found over the years that that although there are all sorts of tastes out there, but in general, people seem to enjoy the models that aren't too sexy, too adult. Reaper's not really into adult content. We have some of it, but it's in a separate line. And the problem with it is just that sometimes stores just don't want to carry it, right? Because mothers get really annoyed when their 10-year-old stumbles over it. Alright, so I'm going to take my small brush and I'm going to line around these little struts. You can see I've already lined around the outside of the bikini top itself. So now I'm just putting in a line to separate out this area, and I'll probably do it in gold. She has bling on her bra. Yep, that's the way it is. Sometimes you just need some bling. Yeah, gluten-free noodles have gotten so much better. I didn't miss it terribly, but there were some foods, like David likes to make pasta carbonara, and I just couldn't have, I couldn't really have it unless I went off diet. But now we just use it, we just make 2 batches of the sauce, and we do miracle noodles for mine and regular noodles for him. And I have it again, so that's awesome. And I can have the pad thai. That's what I'm having for lunch today, is miracle noodle pad thai. With lots of broccoli added in, because my man is awesome and got me broccoli when he went to the store. So I veggie it up a lot. Alrighty. So just again, lining that, making those stand out. I try to avoid legumes, so peas and lentil pastas are ones I tend not to do. I love my miracle noodles, though. Like, there's no reason for me to even explore another pasta, especially not a higher carb one, because I love my miracle noodles. So, cauliflower rice, Val. But there's a trick to cauliflower rice. There's a trick to making it taste really good. And just nuking the package is not it. What I found is that you need to have it be really dry. So essentially I nuke my package of rice and then I put it in a frying pan, a nonstick, with a little bit of olive oil. And I stir it until it gets brown. And then it tastes amazing and smells amazing. And it no longer tastes like cauliflower. Even less so if you add flavors to it. So I use cauliflower rice in all rice dishes now for me. Actually, with David, usually, like for the risotto tonight, I'm going to do half and half. Because then the presence of the little bit of real rice seems to really disguise the cauliflower rice. And you would never be able to really tell. Yeah, Shadow Raymond, take care. Oh no. Yeah, Trader Joe's does have some good stuff. David goes to Trader Joe's every week. I go to Sprouts. Sometimes I go to Whole Foods or order from Whole Foods. Because we have one that's actually closer than the Sprouts. Part of me wonders why I haven't just started going there, except that really it's dangerous. It would make me spend lots of money. So I don't go. So yeah, so we're lining there. Let's see here. Is there anything else right now that I need to line? If I decided that the belt was going to be different, am I going to do it? Yeah, I think I am. I'm going to add a little bit more water into my brown liner because I want it to be a little more transparent here, but I am going to line around the bottom part of the belt here. Where we maybe wanted this to look like the same material, I was going to keep it, but since I am definitely making it go more opaque, I'm going to put a line there. I just want to make it a little bit more of a subtle line, so I'm going to thin my thing. Oh yeah, you could, I bet you could totally do that, Val, because the cauliflower really, once you heat it enough, once you make it dry and heat it enough, and then it loses that cauliflowery taste, and you can go sweet with it at that point, because it's so neutral, right? But yeah, I used to love deep fried cauliflower, and then I wondered why I didn't like cauliflower rice, and I realized that it just wasn't cooked enough. It needed to be cooked more. And then it turned into that tasty flavor that isn't very cauliflowery. Yeah, give it a try. I hope it works for you. It's really, cauliflower rice has been a lifesaver for me because I do love Asian food, and now I can have my rice underneath it. That's really low carb, low calorie. So really helped with my diet. All right, so really thin line, not very much, just a little bit. Now you see though, that really does make it look like the belt is a separate thing. So when you're lining, be aware of that. If you want a piece of cloth that lays over another piece of cloth, but you want it to look like the same piece, not a separate piece, then make sure that you don't do the lining there. You know, instead just work with the colors you've got. But if you're going to make this different, and I mean, I'm within my rights to make it different because if you look, the loincloth hangs off of it, and so do the side scarves. So that's probable that the belt is indeed its own layer, at which point I'm within my rights to line. So I'm going to line around our loincloth, which we're going to go pink with. I'm testing. Justin, are you back? If you're back, I'm not hearing you. Our Justin is still gone, and it's like 11. Justin, we have to raid. John, are you there? There. So I'm going to bring in that shadow there really gently. And if you try to err onto the side of the primed area that you haven't painted on yet. If you do blorf a little bit, you can rinse out your brush, bring it back and kind of scrub with a little bit of water, and that will usually remove a blorf. See, it removes that blorf pretty well.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, Anne. I think my mic was muted.
Oh yeah, okay. Hold on. Potato Forge, just a real quick answer to that question. You can use glazing medium or matte medium. I used brush on sealer. But if you mix this, go back and watch the VOD. If you mix this really thin blue with a little bit of a medium in it, whether it's this or a matte medium or whatever, it will essentially mean that you don't get those coffee marks, those rings, right? what it does is it adds a little bit more stability to the base that you get instead of just adding water. And so it enables you to do a really smooth layer of paint. The other thing you want to do, though, Potato, is you never want to let it pool. You really just want to brush a super, super thin layer over there and make it really even. And if it's pooling, you want to take that excess fluid off. It's not a wash. And if you leave that excess fluid on there, then it is going to dry in rings. But the medium helps with that. So that's how you can do it. But yeah, I recommend, once this is up on VOD, just go back and watch like the beginning part of this video for the first half hour or so, and I talk about all sorts of that stuff. Yeah, no problem. I am here to help. It is what I do. Give us a follow. No, actually, I actually went with brown liner Francis. I don't know. She isn't a mini. Like, there are some models I go with blue liner instead, but I think I wanted to go a little bit neutral on my liner because not everything on her is going to be blue. We're going to be going magenta. We're going to have a lot of gold. So it made more sense to me to go brown liner on this one. Oh my god. Nomad Zeke, send me some venison jerky. Tasty. I miss venison jerky. I bet I could find some online. Actually, what I really miss is venison summer sausage. I should say. Venison jerky is good, but venison summer sausage is really, really good. All right, now one other place.
Some, man.
Huh? What was that?
Said I can send you some when I get it.
Oh, tasty. Thanks, Justin. Oh, I wanted to ask you, Justin, not only for a raid, but also to, what are we at with our AMA? We've gotten like 5 subs at least this show.
So Twitch has decided that for whatever reason, maybe it's broken right now. All of my analytics that I can usually see on the dashboard are gone.
Oh noes.
Yeah, so I don't even know the number of viewers. I can't tell the bit. All of the normal things that I would need are not there for some reason.
All right. Well, we were at like 85 last time, and I think we got we were up to 88 or 89, and then we got at least 5 today. So I'm gonna say possibly we could maybe do an AMA by the end of the week, but it might be next Friday. If you guys, you guys should totally go into the AMA channel on the Reaper Discord and drop some questions in there for me, if you have not, because we need a nice big backlog of questions so that we can spend a lot of time like showing off cool stuff. So all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, one thing that's for sure is we're very close to an AMA.
Yeah, we're really, really close. So either this Friday or next Friday we'll be AMAing. I'm gonna come in here and put in the shadow. It's a little hard because I need to do this. Yeah?
Why don't we go ahead and just plan it for the following Friday?
Okay, yeah, that gives me time to figure out what we want to give away. Because it's an AMA giveaway, you guys. So, like, I need to figure out what awesome thing we're going to give away.
That'll be the 15th.
Okay.
So, make sure you guys get your questions in. And, of course, this is on good faith that between now and then, we will have 5 to 6 subs. Because I'm pretty sure that'll happen.
Yeah, so we totally need some subs. So, you know, if you have a sub in you, or 5 of them. But yeah, so you guys got to hit it in the next 2 weeks, okay? Got to hit us at least 5 or 6 subs. I am just darkening the shadow back behind her knee here by using kind of a mixture of my blue and some brown liner. So see that dark shadow there. Oh, Val with the gift subs. All right, cool.
Perfect.
That's lovely. Thank you, Val. My Painting Big channel this week, it should be back to normal. It should be Tuesday, Thursday. We'll be doing the D&D game, and I need to get some work done on that because we're gonna have an adventure, and it may introduce our next player character. So then we'd be up to 3. I'm falling behind on painting. I need to paint faster. But yes, thanks, Val. Thanks for that. Okay, who do we have to raid, Justin?
Let's see. Let's do just Isis.
All right, yeah, I love Dices. That makes good sense to me. So there you go, guys. Remember, if you missed the start of the stream, go back and watch the VOD because I talk about how I do this thin, and I show you how to do these thin glazes on here to get the transparent cloth effect. So yes, go back, watch things. I will see you next. I think we're back to Rock Troll tomorrow. He's getting so close. I'm so excited. All right, you guys, have a fun day, and I will see you later. Bye.
Thank you guys very much. We'll see you this afternoon for Miniature Monday.